of elements of the array such that it is divisible by 3. Simplifying the description, we are given an array of elements. We have to return the maximum possible sum such that it is divisible by 3. It must be the maximum sum. Now, let me switch to the notepad. Let me explain the problem from mathematical point of view first. So I calculate the total sum. When I calculate the total sum of the elements of this array, I get 23. 23 is not a multiple of 3. 23 is not a multiple of 3. So I try to reduce this 23 to the nearest multiple of 3. Also, it must be a sum of the elements, sum of these elements. So when I subtract 3 from 23, I get 0. When I subtract 3 from 23, I get 20, which is not a multiple of 3. Again, when I subtract 6 from 23, I get 17, which is not a multiple of 3. When I subtract 5 from 23, I get 18. This is a multiple of 3. Now, when I subtract 1 from 23, I get 22. When I subtract 8 from 23, I get 15. So, in this calculation, in these iterations, we have got two multiples of 3. One is 15 and one is 18. Now, according to the problem, I have to return the maximum possible sum. So, this is the maximum sum. How did I get this maximum sum? The core of the problem is we can get maximum possible sum when we subtract the minimum possible element from the total sum. So minimum of 5, 8 is 5. When I subtracted this 5 from 23, I got the result 18, which is a multiple of 3. Also, the maximum possible sum which can be formed from these elements. This is mathematical point of view. Now, there is a pattern in this problem. (23 mod 3 is 2). This is the total sum. I divided the total sum by 3 and got the remainder as 2. Now 5 mod 3 is 2. This 5 is the one of the elements of this array. Now 8 mod 3 is 2. This 8 is one of the elements of this array. Now this is the pattern. The relevant subtractions to get the sum, which is a multiple of 3. So the total sum when divided by 3 gives me a remainder 2. One of the elements 5 gives me a remainder 2. Even 8 also gives me a remainder 2. So I have to decide between these two elements only. The minimum of these two elements 5 and 8. This is the pattern. Now I will explain this problem further by coding the solution parallelly. Now I declared the size of the array. I declared the max sum. I declared sum array. Here this one is for total sum of the elements of the array. Now from this array, I don't know how many elements are indivisible by 3. So the basic point is there are three categories. When any number is divided by 3, we have three possibilities of getting three reminders. One is reminder 0. We get reminder 0 when the number is a multiple of 3. We get reminder 1 and we get reminder 2. So let this reminders be reminder 0, reminder 1 and reminder 2. Three main categories when a number is divided by 3. And here, as I discussed, I focused only on the elements which have given reminder 2 when divided by 3. So we use array list to obtain the elements when we are unaware, like when we are uncertain about the size. So I declare a list named rem1 for collecting the elements which give reminder 1 when divided by 3. Now I declare another list for collecting the elements which give reminder 2 when divided by 3. Again, I use a for loop for calculating the total sum of the elements of the array. Now using this for loop, I can collect the elements for including in the array list reminder 1 and array list reminder 2. So if the element gives me a reminder of 1, I will add it to reminder 1 array list of reminder 1, or else if the elements give a reminder 2, I will add it to the array list of reminder 2. Again, I have the option of sorting the array list, because sorting the array list doesn't make any difference. It doesn't complicate the problem. So I sort the array list. Now let R be the reminder when the total sum of the elements is divided by 3. As I mentioned earlier, I have three possibilities. One is if I get reminder 2, the maximum sum will be the total sum of the array. Now the second case is if R is 1, if the remainder is 1, here I have two possibilities. One is if remainder is 1, I have two possibilities. One is remove the smallest number which gives remainder 1 when divided by 3. And second option is if I don't have the element which gives me a reminder 1 directly, I have to take two elements. Each element must give a reminder 1 when divided by 3. Okay, let me explain this one with an example. Suppose I have an element for option 1. I have an array. I have a sample array 1, 4. Here 1 modulo 3 is 1. 4 modulo 3 is 1. So I can directly subtract 1 or 4 directly from the total sum of the array. Option 2 comes into picture when I have an array like this type. So 2 modulo 3 gives me 2 again. Now this case is for if remainder is 1. So I add both these elements to get a sum. This 4 when divided by 3 gives me a remainder 1. Now it's the same for the case 3. If remainder is 2, I have one option. Remove the number giving remainder 2. Option 2, two smallest numbers giving remainder 1. Okay, to be precise, I will take an example. Here 2, 8. Okay, I have a sample array 2, 8. Now both 2 and 8 give me a remainder of 2 when divided by 3. Even 8 gives me a remainder 2 when divided by 3. I have to take minimum of these two. So I subtract 2 from the total sum of the array. This is just an example array. Now option 2 is when I don't have the element which directly gives me a remainder 2. I have to obtain a sum. This is option 2. You obtain a sum. I get answer as 2. When I divide this 2 by 3, I get a remainder 2. So option 1 is integer.max value. This integer.max value is used for representing that the condition is not yet proved. This integer.max value is equal to positive infinity. Now okay, here I have two possibilities for the sizes. If the size of the array list of remainder 1 is greater than 1, I can have the option, I can have the first element from the array list as option 1. For second case, that is option 2, if I have the array list remainder 2 greater than 2, the size of the array list of remainder 2 greater than 2, the option 2 is the sum of the first two elements. Here I am directly taking the first two elements because I have sorted the array list earlier. Now the max sum is so I subtract minimum of option 1 and option 2 from the total sum of the array. Now it's the same for third case when remainder is 2. Okay, let me just copy paste this one. Here we have to just alter the variables. Here instead of remainder 1 we take remainder 2, and because this is all about remainder 2, the elements which give remainder as 2 when divided by 3. So I return max sum. So this is all about the problem. A quick review of the problem. When any number is divided by 3, we have 3 categories. That is remainder 0, remainder 1 and remainder 2. 3 possibilities. Now for remainder 0, we directly return the total sum of the array as maximum sum. If remainder is 1, we have two options. Remove the smallest number giving remainder 1 if it is available in the array. This is direct subtraction. Or else if the direct element is not available,